The God equation, the theory of everything. From the beginning of history, mankind has been fascinated with the nature of reality. Man has always been curious about God, about the nature of reality, and about making sense of this complex existence. What we call science, what we call philosophy, and what we call religion are all about the same thing. It is about understanding this reality. And this has been a very important quest in my own life. And in this important video, we will deep dive into the theory of everything. This is something that I have been thinking about for a very long time. And here we will try to make sense of the infinite potential, and we will try to understand this reality, and we will try to understand how we can consciously create our life by understanding the essence of what this reality actually is. The Advaita channel is about consciousness and conscious creation. Here we explore Vedanta and various other ancient teachings from India to understand this reality and to consciously create our lives. First of all, this video is going to be from the perspective of Advaita Vedanta. And as per Advaita Vedanta, that ultimate reality or God is consciousness. God or reality or existence or consciousness or Brahman are all the same thing when we are talking about this topic and when it comes to Advaita Vedanta. So there is no differentiation between existence or consciousness or God or Brahman. And by understanding one of these, we understand everything else. So this knowledge of God or consciousness or Brahman is said to be the ultimate knowledge as per the Upanishads. It is said that this is the knowledge by understanding which everything else is understood. Just by understanding the nature of clay, all pots can be understood. By understanding consciousness or the nature of reality itself, all manifestations within reality can be understood. So, with this, let us go deeper into this subject of the theory of everything in order to make sense of this reality. Now, as per Upanishads, God or Brahman is the infinite potential. It is Purnam. And the Shanti mantra of Ishopanishad goes like this. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Avashishyate. And this means that God is an absolute infinite. It is Purnam, and this reality and this manifestation is also Purnam. This is also an infinite. From that has come this. And if we take away this from that, what remains is still that absolute infinite. Now, this sounds like a complicated statement, but it is actually not. I was reading a book by Sri M, which is The Journey Continues. And in this book, this verse is explained in a very simple way. Basically, everything is energy, and this energy can neither be created nor can it be destroyed. It can simply manifest in different forms and it can go back to its potential state, but ultimately, nothing in this universe is ever created nor it is ever destroyed. So, that God or that infinite consciousness is a subtle potential and it always exists. And within it, there are infinite possibilities. There is infinite potential. Now, our mind is an instrument. It's a filter through which we perceive an aspect of this infinite potential. We experience an aspect of God in a limited way at a certain point in time space through the instrument or the filter of the mind. So, mind is simply a lens through which we perceive the world, and the parameters of this filter or lens is time, space, and causality. Our mind experiences things with respect to time, with respect to space, and with respect to causation, which means something coming into existence at certain point in time and something being destroyed or going out of our experience after a certain point in time. So anything that we experience through our mind requires these three primary parameters of time, space, and causality. Time is simple to understand. We experience a certain object or a thing with respect to a certain time, and also space. We can only experience things within a certain space. And causation simply means that we can comprehend something which exists by understanding its cause and by understanding how it was created. We cannot understand something that exists without any cause. So the reality itself is infinite and there is infinite potential, and our mind is finite and we experience one aspect of this infinite. And to understand how this reality is actually infinite, we can look at many examples. If we look at the animal kingdom, the way a frog perceives this reality is very, very different from how we perceive this reality. A frog has different set of capabilities. An owl has a different set of capabilities. So each of this animal or bird perceives this infinite potential in a different way. Even though it might be looking at the same object, the way it perceives it and the way it understands it can be totally different. This means that although the reality is infinite, because of our filter and because of our limitations, we perceive it in a different way. Not only this, the same reality is experienced in different ways by different people based on their limiting beliefs, based on their personalities. If we look at the marketplace, a businessman or a successful entrepreneur looks at opportunities and looks at problems to solve, whereas another person might simply look at competition and might look at scarcity. So although the reality is same, first of all, based on the instrument of the mind and based on our sense organs, we limit that reality and we perceive one aspect of that reality. And then based on the nature of our mind, based on the nature of our personality and limiting beliefs, we further interpret the same reality in different ways as different individuals. Now, why am I talking about all this? We are doing this thought experiment, we are thinking about this to make sense of this reality. Reality is simply Brahman as per Vedanta. This is simply an infinite potential, and all the duality and all the separation and all the experiences that we go through is Maya, it's a simulation. The underlying reality is all one and the same. But based on the instruments that we have, that are the Jnanendriyas or the instruments of perception or the sense organs, we perceive this reality in a certain way. And further, based on our limiting beliefs and our personality, we again interpret this reality in a different way. Now, we all know this. There is a range of different vibrations that surrounds us. But through our ears, we can only conceive and we can only hear a certain range within the spectrum. Similarly, there are UV rays and there are different kinds of rays that is around us. But we can only perceive and experience a limited aspect of light. Like this, reality is infinite, but our perception is finite, and based on our perception, we experience a certain aspect of reality. And this infinite reality in its completeness is described as Purnam or Brahman. This is God or the infinite consciousness as per Advaita Vedanta. Advaita Vedanta says, since this infinite potential is all there is, even we in our essence is this infinite potential, and we have the capability to realize this and live this. This is the point of all spiritual pursuits as per Vedanta. Now, there are various models of this reality. First of all, there are religious models. Monotheistic religions poised a single all-powerful God separate from creation. Polytheistic traditions see multiple deities governing different aspects of existence. But Sanatana Dharma is pluralistic. It accepts all schools of thought within a broad umbrella. This is the speciality and the uniqueness of Sanatana Dharma. According to Sanatana Dharma, there are as many paths as there are seekers in this world. So, different philosophies and different schools of thought coexist within what we call Hinduism or Sanatana Dharma, based on our tendencies, based on our intellectual orientation. We can choose a philosophy or a path that appeals to us the most and reach the infinite. This is the logic behind it. And then there are philosophical models. Materialism views reality as purely physical. Idealism sees consciousness or mind as the fundamental reality. Scientific models like classical physics present deterministic, mechanistic universe. Quantum physics introduces uncertainty and observer dependent reality. So each of these philosophies and scientific worldview are models. We cannot say the Newtonian physics is wrong and quantum physics is right. It is simply about which model is more right or which model is more fundamental. Each of these models are right in their own respect and at that level. And all religions, all philosophies and schools of thought are simply different models of reality. We cannot say that one model is wrong and another is right. We cannot say that one religion is wrong and another is right. We can only talk about which model explains this reality better and which model takes us closer to reality the way it actually is. At least this is what I have come to understand when it comes to this reality. Since there is infinite possibilities, since there is infinite potential, every model of reality works in its own way. If we look at Christianity and the worldview of Christianity, that actually is the truth from the perspective of a Christian, and it works at one level. And then if we look at Sanatana Dharma and Hinduism and different philosophies within Hinduism, each of these darshanas or philosophies do work at that level. But from my understanding and from my perspective, Advaita Vedanta gives a holistic view and it gives a higher perspective on reality for what it truly is. So, Dvaita, Vishishtadvaita, Advaita, all these philosophies are models of reality. Like Upanishads themselves say that Brahman cannot be conceived by the mind. It cannot be put down in language. Although that Brahman cannot be described in language, Upanishads do a great job as simple pointers to that infinite reality. And that is why we should not become extremely attached to any of the philosophies or religion or schools of thought. Religion or philosophy is simply designed to point us towards the ultimate reality. We need to actually walk the path and grasp that reality for what it truly is. Whether we call it God, whether we call it consciousness, whether we call it Brahman or Satchit Ananda, it doesn't matter. These are words, and that God or that ultimate reality is definitely beyond words. At least to this, all of us can agree upon. And these philosophies or religions were simply meant to be pointers to that ultimate reality. They were meant to prepare us and take us toward that ultimate reality. But what most of us are doing right now in this world is that we are holding on to these books and philosophies and religions as though they themselves are the ultimate truth. A book can never be the ultimate truth. A book can point us toward that ultimate truth. The great thing about Upanishads is that they themselves proclaim this. Within the Upanishads, it is said that the one who worships ignorance goes into darkness, and the one who worships knowledge goes into a deeper darkness. This means that these texts and this knowledge is not meant only for worship. This is meant to be understood and it is meant to be practiced. So, by understanding these texts, we can go beyond them and perceive the reality for what it is. And this is the goal for every individual. Right now, we are finite. Our body is finite, our mind is finite, and our ego is finite. The goal is to be infinite. The goal is to realize our true nature as infinite as per Advaita Vedanta. So basically, the Jiva is finite and the God is infinite. And the journey from finite to infinite is the spiritual path. There are many ways to accomplish this. There are many paths that one can choose in order to reach this ultimate state. But the first step is to recognize that there is something which is infinite and I right now am finite. And one of the most profound verses that I found in the Skandopanishad was Pasha bandhas tata jivaha pasha mukta sadashivaha. The one with bondage is Jiva, who is you and me, and the one without bondage is Shiva, that is God or the infinite potential. So basically, the journey from finite to infinite is what all of us must go through. And that is in fact what each of us are going through. Some are doing it consciously, some are doing this unconsciously.